Welcome to the Social Media Law Podcast. I'm Ian Corzine, your social media lawyer. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by SAYER G, who's going to discuss a real difficult situation that happened on Instagram. He was deprived of his rights to free speech, as well as his company, Green Med Info. SAYER, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot for having me. Appreciate having an opportunity to speak about what happened.
Well, I've been a big fan of yours for a while now, and I love what you do with the health side, as well as the awareness side with what's going on in this complicated society that we have today. Before we get into the details of what we're going to discuss about free speech, I wanted to give you an opportunity to give your links out for my audience.
Great. Yeah. You can find us still on Instagram through my main account, which is SAYER G, my name, SAYER G. And then we have Green Med Info too on Instagram, which is a backup. And then we're on Telegram. That's a great way to get the word out without any kind of algorithmic deboosting. Yes. It's a channel, so it's not dialogical, so it has its limitations. But relative to Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, and other conventional platforms, I don't believe, capturing the data as much. So that it gives you a little bit more privacy protection, I think.
I agree. And also you're on YouTube. I watch you on YouTube fairly often. What's your YouTube channel?
That's right. YouTube, you can find me Green Med Info and also SAYER G. So we have two channels. Although recently in this window, they took our first video down after 10 years. So I think it was because of the one that, irritated Instagram so much.
Wow. It's already happening. It's happening on YouTube too. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Let's get right into the story. And that is, a while back, and I'm estimating about a month to 3 weeks back, you had a main Instagram account called Green Med Info, and you were deplatformed. Yeah. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we were posting content that Instagram labeled as harmful and false. Yeah. Harmful false information. And some of that information was reposting, for example, Ron Paul's quote around the hyperinflated statistics of basically, confirmed cases being construed as if, there's dead people in the street and everyone needs to freak out. So it was just reposting something of Ron Paul's and suddenly our account got flagged. And some of that content, I guess irritated Instagram to the point where they said, you're done. So. Wow.
And was that the main post that was identified as taken down and the reason why your channel your account was taken down?
Well, actually what happened, there were 3 posts over the course of the past, I'd say 3-4 months related to and just trying to point out some facts that are inconvenient. And they caused warnings saying your page could be unpublished. But I think the primary reason was I did a video, it was a live stream where I talked about the pandemic numbers being orders of magnitude lower than what was originally stated to the public and which justified the March 15th lockdown of the United States. Yeah. And that was pretty much, I think, what they couldn't handle, and they shut down the account, I think, for that reason.
Now, did you have the Green Med 2 Instagram account before you were shut down on the first account?
Yes, because others were saying, hey, listen, you should probably do that. And so I just prepared, and I've known other brands that have faced censorship, like Free Thought Project and Anti-Media, were brands that were taken off Facebook. And many of those brands, including myself, came to Instagram because Facebook's algorithms had so deboosted and deranked our posts that we have 550,000 followers on Facebook, all organically arrived at, no synthetic, likes. And yeah, I know, our reach was down to nothing. So Instagram was this vibrant platform that seemed to have real engagement. And of course, it was bought by Facebook. So that was an illusion ultimately, because we're now seeing censorship worse there than on Facebook.
I agree. We're seeing it a lot worse. Were you given an opportunity to appeal the termination of the account?
No. It still states that within 24 hours, you should be able to go to the, help center to file a review. And there's no way to do that. So it's been a few weeks and nothing.
It's frustrating to me, being a social media lawyer, seeing people who are literally reposting other content that's available on the same platform and other platforms, and really just stating their truth, not trying to incite, not trying to inflame, just kind of repeating the truth, get deplatformed. In my opinion, free speech should be something that's revered on the social media platforms. And clearly, as far as Instagram goes, it wasn't in this case.
Yeah, in fact, what's really alarming to me is I recently posted to SAYER, my Instagram account, just a question related to masks, very basic question, like if they work, why can't relatives of the elderly, for example, that are in hospitals visit them? Just a question. And the question was labeled as harmful, false information. And so that's the thing, is if we're getting to the point where you can't even ask a question or hold an opinion on medical matters, that's a real scary place to live, I think.
Yeah. And I think they're forcing us to go to other different social media platforms like Telegram. I think we're going to see a lot more kind of closed platforms where it's not about getting likes and hashtags and all those things, but it's more about having a discussion, a civil discussion about topics that affect all of us.
Yeah. And I think your point's excellent. And when you think about consent, which is key here, when you subscribe or follow someone, you're saying, okay, I'm interested in learning what they have to say. At any point, you can unsubscribe, you can comment that you don't approve it, but to have someone intermediate that in a way that's kind of seemingly more algorithmic, it's almost like AI is now censoring. And I know a number of content creators now that are self-censoring themselves, like they won't use, right? And then that's when we actually become entrained to an AI algorithm before it's even taken over humanity. We're already consenting to it taking over our freedom of speech. So the fear of being deplatformed is now conditioning people, and I would rather be deplatformed than to censor myself. And it's not the best choice for everybody, but we'll see what happens. It's an experiment, because at any day they could take my other pages off, but I'm still alive, so I'm still around.
You're still alive. You're still healthy. Well, listen, and also your subscriber count on Telegram is still healthy. I think it's up to 22,000 or somewhere around there. So you're building there with people who are interested in you. How did you get started?
Well, I was saying, like, before social media was a thing, at least for me, it was not in my consciousness. I was really just in the public, working with people, the context of natural health, supporting them with information that they needed to be informed and to make good decisions. And that was what I was doing. And so for 10 years, I was known locally in Southwest Florida as the health food guy people would come to for advice. And it was just what I loved to do. And it was not till 2007, 8 that I realized that, okay, there's all this research in the National Library of Medicine. There's not a single place I could think of you could just go to and look at the index of research. So I figured, all right, I want to do this for myself. I've been doing it for my friends and clients. So I created Agreement Info. And then Facebook took over, and there was trillions of referral traffic given for free to the world to get their platform up and running before we all realized that it would be monetized and co-opted for military level surveillance of the population. So that's kind of where we're at now, is the veil's lifted, and it's not a safe place, or at least you should have informed consent if you use these platforms, is that there's a downside, even though they're pretty much still amazing tools for connecting.
They are. They're really amazing. Yeah. So to go back, I mean, basically, as I was familiar with greenmedinfo.com, it was basically a situation where you subscribe and then you'd have access to like over 10,000 or so medical scientific research papers with no particular bent, just the ones that were available to learn how to live healthily. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So now there's 65,000 abstracts. There's 10,000 subjects. 3,000 diseases are indexed. The turmeric page alone has, I think, 3,100 articles on turmeric's benefits across 800 conditions. And the idea was let the studies speak for themselves. We just have an algorithm that presents the data, shows the most compelling solutions, and there it is. But interestingly, it was the reporting on the studies that got the most attention, and then that's what made us kind of an enemy of the state, if you will, because natural medicine is now considered to be the enemy of the agenda that's descending around the world today.
There was a time actually when you started, would you say it was around March 15th when there was the global lockdown, where you started saying, listen, I need to get out actually what's really happening to us? And
I honestly was on the sidelines before March, just didn't want to say anything because I'm like, you know what? Okay, maybe it's a weaponized gain of function, germ particle that they released in Wuhan. Who knows? So then I was like, okay, I have to speak up to what is clearly the problem here in the United States, which is that these case fatality rate projections are based on absolutely just it's unicorn science. There was nothing there to back it up actually. So that's the problem. You can't really speak to the facts today without them calling it fake or harmful false information.
Are you getting some response from your audience? I mean, are they taking action? What are you hoping to gain by making these people aware of all these contradictions in our society?
Well, I think because we all felt it, we were all told to, basically lock down, which is like an active shooter terminology. The way that they ran this operation made everyone feel like that was a good thing to do. Never in the history of infectious disease, to my knowledge, have they required the quarantining of healthy individuals, also requiring them to give up their livelihoods. I mean, this is unprecedented. Yes. So there's nothing about this that made any sense to people that were looking at it just from a strictly like common sense perspective. So speaking up was just human nature, and there was a lot of others who've done it. It's just that we already had a platform that had enough of a following, because across our email list and social media footprint, we probably have about 1.52 million followers. Wow. So Instagram was sort of a small part of that. But, I think that the point was to get people aware and then for them to take constructive action, because I also am the co-founder of a nonprofit organization called Stand for Health Freedom that enables people to take direct action through the Digital Advocacy Center. So I didn't want to just make people aware, scare them, and then they don't know what to do. We also have tools that they can use to make an impact.
Now, when you did decide, as far as getting on social media, and you obviously were on Instagram, we discussed a problem with YouTube also, as far as them taking down your first video. Were there other social media platforms that gave you guff too, that gave you some difficulties when you were publishing your information?
That's why it's interesting that this COVID thing didn't shake me maybe as much as others that I know, because in 2018, we started to see an orchestrated attempt to deplatform us, starting with Pinterest and then going right in. Yeah, Pinterest took us out of all platforms. I mean, like, I guess that's like not a big deal. I shouldn't feel so sorry for myself. And then, well, then it was MailChimp. It was our email provider, and we're shutting it down. And Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act says that these big tech platforms can basically be indemnified against inhibiting your free speech, because they have a platform. They shouldn't care what is on the platform, theoretically, if they're just providing software as a service. But they shut us down as a publisher. And then from there, Google eliminated all natural health sites from their search results. Mercola saw 99.9% of his traffic to disappear overnight.
You mentioned Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act. That statute kind of brings to the fore a discussion about, being a publisher or being a distributor of information. And when that law was passed, it was sold to us as basically a necessary law so that social media platforms could be distributors of all content and only have the right to delete content that is harassing, obscene, or otherwise objectionable. I will agree that there is that little, phrase in there. What do you see social media as right now? A platform for distribution, a publisher of information? They get to choose and pick what kind of information they allow the public to see. What is your thought on that?
Well, it's an aphorism at this point for our age, but if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. Yeah. This recent Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, is was amazing. You saw it? I
watched part of it. I'm going to do a review, I think, for the channel.
Oh my God, it'd be awesome to have your perspective on it. But it was really impressive because, Netflix is big tech. So I was surprised they were letting loose with this vision, which is dark, of an AI-driven universe where we're almost like avatars in this digital realm, right? With our souls being ingested and weaponized against us. And that's how the data capture works, Cambridge Analytica and all these new revelations. So I think that what I've come to is more of a position of radical responsibility. I'm thankful that these platforms have given me any voice, right? Yes. And it's really not the platforms. What happened initially with the algorithms were set up to honor and reflect what true human engagement is. Millions of years of evolution pre-programs us to want social validation, Yes. And they've done a genius job of capturing that. So yes, there's still beauty with social media. overnight someone can change the world or their destiny by having people make something go viral. But the reality is that they are trying to weaponize this against us. They have successfully done that previously.
Do you have any advice for up and coming creators, who want to be able to get the truth out on social media, which is basically our primary, facilitator of our voices right now?
I just don't know that I have a lot of, I don't think it's so positive right now, because it's very difficult when you post something that's really just a question and they censor you. There's no real, there's not an ethics that they're abiding by here. So if they don't want you to have a certain amount of following, they're going to try to take you out, unfortunately.
So there really is no answer. Would you say that a creator wanting to get his or her truth out should use certain tips or techniques to be able to avoid the algorithms or avoid censorship? Or is your advice just to state your truth, be who you are, and let the chips fall where they may?
Amen, brother. Yeah, that's what I would say, because I never went about trying to get a following, which is an interesting story. Like before all this stuff was monetized and people were trying to build followings, and it was just me just kind of going out on a limb. And it happened a number of times, man. And it's like the more people that go and speak their truth, the safer it becomes to be in the world. And so and I think you will see people will really resonate with you on a soul level. So what I think is true, I think Walt Whitman said something to the effect that, reject anything that insults your soul, was what he was saying. But the opposite's true too. Just do what your soul says is right. You're going to be protected. It's meant to be. And ultimately, we're going to win, so to speak, if we all stay positive and don't make our decisions based so much on fear. Because, it's hard not to do that. And I do that sometimes. But mostly I try to make my decisions based on confidence that the truth is going to truly liberate us, I think the primary thing is just go with what's true. And then be prepared, though, to create your own independent platform as you go. Join ones that are better.
Again, Sayer, thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us.
It's my honor. Thank you so much. And I'll be sure to introduce my fans to your work as well, which I think is important.
Creators, I hope you got some value out of today's talk. And by the way, as a reminder, go to iancorzine.com to get all answers that you need to your social media law questions. All right, that's enough for today. I'm Ian Corzine, your social media lawyer, and I'll see y'all next week.